Esther chapter 3. Haman's plot against the Jews. Sometimes later King Xerxes promoted Haman, son of Hamada the Agag, over all the other nobles, making him the most powerful official in the empire. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by, for so the king had commanded. But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. Then the police officer at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why are you disobeying the king's command?" They spoke to him day after day, but still he refused to comply with the order. So they spoke to Haman about this to see if he would tolerate Mordecai's conduct, since Mordecai had told them he was a Jewish. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage. He had learned of Mordecai's nationality, so he decided it was not enough to lay hand on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. So in the month of April, during the 12th year of King Xerxes' reign, laws were cast in Haman's presence. The law was called Purim, to determine the best day and month to take action, and the day selected was March 7th, near a year later. Then Haman approached King Xerxes and said, "There is a certain race of people scattered through all the provinces of your emperor who keep themselves separate from everyone else. Their laws are different from those of any other people, and they refuse to obey the law of the king. So it is not in the king's interest to let them live. If it please the king, issue a decree that they be destroyed, and I will give the 10,000 large sacks of silver to the government administrator to be deposited in the royal treasury." The king agreed, confirmed his decision by removing his signet ring from his finger and give to the Haman's son of Hamada the Agag, the enemy of the Jews. The king said, "The money and the people are both yours to do with as you see fit." So on April 7th, the king's secretary was summoned and a decree was written exactly as Haman dictated. It was sent to king's highest official, the governor of the respective province, and the nobles of each province in their own script and language. The decree was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. Dispatches were sent by swift messenger into all the provinces of the empire, giving the order that all Jewish, young and old, including women and children, must be killed, slaughtered, and annihilated on the single day. That was scheduled to happen on March 7th of the next year. The property of Jews would be given to those who killed them. A copy of this decree was to be issued as law in every province and proclaimed to all people so that they would be ready to do their duty on the appointed day. At the king's command, the decree went out by swift messenger, and it was also proclaimed in the forest of Susa. Then the king and the Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa fell into confusion. Chapter 4. Mordecai requests Esther help. When Mordecai learned about all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on burlap and ash, and went out into the city crying with loud and bitter wailing. He went as far as the gate of the palace, for no one was allowed to enter the palace gate while wearing clothes of mourning. And as the news of the king's decrees reached all the province, there were a great mourning among the Jews. They fasted, wept, and wailed, and many people laid in burlap and ash. When Queen Esther's maid and Emuchas came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothing to him and replaced the burlap, but he refused it. Then Esther sent for Hatches, one of the king's emissary who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go to Mordecai and find out what was troubling him and why he was in mourning. So Mordecai went out to Mordecai in the square in front of the palace gate. Mordecai told him the whole story, including the exact amount of money Haman had claimed to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai gave the Hajj a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the deaths of the all Jewish. He has asked Hackett to show it to the Esther and explain this situation to her. He also asked Hackett to direct her to go into the king to beg for mercy and plague for her people. So Hackett returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. Then Esther told Hackett to go back and relayed this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials and even the people in the province know that anyone who appeared before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die, unless the king hold out his gold scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him for 30 days. So Hackett gave the Esther message to Mordecai. Mordecai sent this right to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you are in the palace you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relative will die. Who knows if perhaps you are made queen for just such a time as this. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go and gather together all the Jewish of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night and day. My maid and I will do the same. And then, so it is against the law, I will go to see the king. If I must die, I must die. So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. Chapter 5. Esther's request to the king. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on his royal robe and entered in the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting in his royal throne facing the entrance. When he saw the queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the gold scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king asked her, What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom. And Esther replied, If it is please the king, let the king and the Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for the king. The king turned to his attendants and said, Tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet, as Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to the Esther's banquet. And while they were drinking wine, and the king said to Esther, Now tell me what you really want. What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is the half of the kingdom. Esther replied, This is my request and I deeply wish. If I have found favor with the king, and if it please the king to grant my request and do what I ask, please come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you. Then I will explain what this is all about. Haman's plan to kill Mordecai. Haman was a happy man as he left the banquet, but when he saw Mordecai sitting at the palace gate, not standing up or trembling nervous before him, Haman became furious. However, he restrained himself and went on home. So Haman gathered together his friends and his wife, and boasted to them about his great wealth and his many children. He bragged about the honor of the king had given him and how he had been promoted over all the other noble and officials. Then Haman added, And that's not all. Queen Esther invited only me and the king himself to the banquet she prepared for us. And she has invited me to dine with her and the king again tomorrow. Then he added, But this is all worth nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jewish just sitting there at the palace gate. So Haman's wife, Zeresh, and all the friends suggest set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall, and in the morning ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king. This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole set up. And then we were going to the chapter 6. The king honors Mordecai. The night the king had trouble sleeping, so he ordered the dentist to bring the book of the history he reigned, so it could be read to him. In those records, he discovered a account of how Mordecai had exploded the plot of Bigam, and the two of them who guarded the door to the king's private quarter, they had plotted to assassinate King Xerxes. What reward or recognition did we ever give the Mordecai for this? The king asked. Here, his attendants replied, Nothing has been done for him. Who is that in the outer court? The king inquired. As it happened, Haman has just arrived in the outer court place to ask the king to impale the Mordecai on the pole he has prepared. So the attendants replied to the king, Haman is out in court. Bring him in, the king ordered. So Haman came in, and the king said, What should I do to honor a man who truly pleased me? Haman said to him, Whom would the king wish to honor more than me? So he replied, If the king wished to honor someone, he should bring out one of the king's own royal robe, as well as a horse that the king himself has ridden, one with a royal emblem on his head, and the robe and the horse had been handed over to one of the king's most noble officials, and let him see that the man who the king wished to honor is dressed in the king's robe, and let through the city square on the king's horse. Have the officials shout as they go, "This is what the king does for every someone he wished to honor." "Excellent," the king said to Haman. "Quick, take the robe and my horse, and do just as you have said to Mordecai the Jewish, who would sit at the gate of the palace. Leave out nothing you have suggested." So Haman took the robe and put them on Mordecai, placed him on the king's own horse, and led him through the city square, shouting, "This is what the king does for someone he wished to honor." Afterward, Mordecai returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home, dejected and completely humiliated. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends what had happened, his wise advisor and his wife said, "Since Mordecai, this man who has humiliated you, is of Jewish birth, you will never succeed in your plan against him. It will be fatal to continue opposing him." While they were still talking, the king's emissary arrived and quickly took Haman to the banquet Esther had prepared. And then we were going to the chapter 7. So those 4 chapters is talking about Haman's want to destroy all the Jewish, but Esther and Mordecai want to save the Jewish. So the stories continue, but that is a lot of detail here. Alright, so that's today's Bible learning. Hope everybody like it. God bless everyone. Let's see you tomorrow.